A glass tower in the heart of New York. Neon lights casting shadows into the luxurious boardroom on the 40th floor. A tense shareholder meeting. A young female CEO sitting at the head of the table. Suddenly, several bulky men shot up from their seats, charging toward her. Me, Jack, 43 years old, single dad, retired SEAL. Just a security guard standing by the door. When a rough hand reached out to grab her, my voice cut through like steel. "Hands off the lady!" The entire room went dead silent before the storm erupted. I'm Jack Turner, 43, single dad, American, former Navy SEAL, now working security for a financial corporation in Manhattan. 3 defining traits: lean muscular build, long scar running down my neck from a mission gone wrong, sharp eyes that look perpetually tired from double shifts. My 12-year-old daughter, Lily. She's my entire world. My only reason for breathing after my wife, Sarah, died from sudden heart failure 3 years ago. Small 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, peeling wallpaper, squeaky floors, but clean, always clean. Corner of the living room always had Lily's acoustic guitar she practiced on religiously. My daily routine, every single morning, making cheap cheese sandwiches for her lunch even after pulling late-night security shifts. Never missed one. One Tuesday morning, I was assigned to guard a major shareholder meeting. High stakes, high tension. The kind where security actually mattered. The CEO, Amelia Grant, 32 years old, 32 years. Newly appointed after her father's sudden retirement. Many people doubted her, whispered she was too young, too inexperienced, too female. I stood by the door, standard position, watching, assessing. The meeting started calm, then voices raised. Arguments erupted. In the middle of the chaos, a group of angry shareholders suddenly stood. 5 men, all larger, all aggressive, moving toward Amelia with clear intent. I read the threat immediately, years of SEAL training kicking in. I moved, fast, positioned myself between them and her. One guy reached out, tried to grab Amelia's shoulder, to physically intimidate her. My hand shot out, caught his wrist, steel grip. "Hands off the lady." The room froze, every eye on me. The man tried to pull away, couldn't. "Who the hell do you think you are?" "Someone doing his job." "Step back." Now. My voice was calm, but my stance said everything. Trained. Dangerous. Don't test me. Amelia found her voice behind me, shaky but firm. "This meeting is adjourned. Security will escort you out." The men hesitated, saw something in my eyes, backed down, left muttering threats. When the room emptied, Amelia's shoulders sagged, the strong facade cracking. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did. It's right." She looked at me properly then, really looked. "What's your name?" "Jack Turner, ma'am." "Amelia, please. After that, I think we're past formalities." I nodded. Something shifted between us. Unspoken, unexpected. Symbolic object number 1, the security badge gleaming on my chest. From ordinary plastic to symbol of protection, of courage, the real person mark of Act 1, my plastic lunchbox. Walmart, $4.99 printed on the bottom. Lily had prepared it that morning. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, note saying, "Love you, Dad," in crayon. Still warm in my bag. That evening, I went home to our small apartment. Lily was practicing guitar. Off-key but enthusiastic. "How was work, Dad?" "Interesting day, sweetheart." She noticed I hadn't eaten much lunch. "You okay?" "Just busy. Come here." I hugged her, my anchor, my purpose. Later that night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Jack, it's Amelia Grant. I hope you don't mind. I got your contact from HR." My heart skipped. Professional boundaries, but something in her voice. Vulnerable. Human. "Is everything all right, Ms. Grant?" "Amelia, please. I wanted to thank you properly. Would you have coffee with me? Tomorrow?" I thought of Lily, my responsibilities, then thought of the fear I'd seen in Amelia's eyes. "Sure, after my shift." "Thank you. For today, for seeing me as a person, not just a position to protect." I understood that feeling. Good night, Amelia. Good night, Jack. The next day, everything changed. Amelia personally requested I be assigned as her close protection, full-time. The board approved reluctantly. In the elevator going up to her office, she turned to me. Weren't you afraid of losing your job, getting involved? I smiled slightly. I've faced armed insurgents in Afghanistan. Boardroom politics don't scare me much. She laughed. Genuine. First real laugh I'd heard from her. I suppose not. That evening, after everyone left, Amelia invited me to stay. Have dinner with me? Here? I need to talk to someone who sees me as human. The office was empty. Golden hour light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. We sat at the conference table with takeout containers. She told me her story. Father built the company from nothing, left it to her in his will. But a scandal erupted. Suspicious timing. Board members who wanted her gone. Shareholders who saw her as weak. Easy to manipulate. I shared mine. Met Sarah in college. Married young. Lily came. Perfect life. Then Sarah's heart condition. Hidden. Undiagnosed. One day she just collapsed. Gone before the ambulance arrived. Left me alone with a 9-year-old who didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming home. Lost my direction after that. The SEALs kept me grounded, but then Lily needed me more. So I left. Took security work. Whatever paid the bills. Amelia's eyes glistened. I'm so sorry. Life happens. We adapt. My phone rang, Lily's face on the screen. Video call. Hey, sweetheart. Dad, look! She held up her guitar, started playing, badly, proudly, a song she'd learned. Amelia leaned in, smiling, waving. That's beautiful, Lily beamed. Who's that? A friend from work. Keep practicing, okay? I'll be home soon. After hanging up, Amelia wiped her eyes. She's wonderful. You're lucky. I know, she keeps me human. I wish I had that, something real to hold on to. The next Saturday, I had Lily for the day, weekend custody schedule. In custody, Amelia texted, asking if she could visit, bring lunch. I hesitated but agreed. She arrived at our Brooklyn apartment. Nice clothes, obviously expensive, looking completely out of place. Lily opened the door. You're the lady from the phone, Amelia laughed. That's me. I'm Amelia. I'm Lily. Want to see my guitar? Before I could intervene, Lily dragged Amelia inside. Straight to the living room, started showing her chords. I watched from the kitchen doorway. This powerful CEO sitting cross-legged on our worn carpet, trying to position her fingers. Lily patiently correcting her. Laughter filled our small space. Real laughter. Later, Amelia insisted on making lunch. Pancakes. She burned the first batch. Lily found it hilarious. You're worse than Dad. Hey, I protested. I make decent pancakes. Amelia smiled at me, something soft in her expression. This is nice. Really nice. Symbolic object number 1 reappeared. My security badge sat on the coffee table. Lily picked it up, tried it on. Dad's a superhero, right, Miss Amelia? Amelia looked at me. Yeah, he really is. Micro-conflict emerged when Amelia glanced around our apartment. The worn furniture, patched walls. She spoke without thinking. I can't believe this is where you live. It's so... I stiffened. Small? Poor? Different from your world? She immediately realized. No, I meant real. Lived in. Full of love. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. Lily sensed the tension. We like our home. It's perfect, Amelia said quickly. Really, I didn't mean to imply otherwise. The real person mark of Act 2, an electricity bill stuck on our fridge with a magnet. Con Edison, 72 to 10 years, past due in red letters. Real life, real struggles. Over the following weeks, something beautiful grew. Amelia started coming over regularly, helping Lily with homework, learning to cook simple meals, spaghetti, grilled cheese, things she'd never made before. One night we washed dishes together, Lily already asleep. I envy you, Amelia said softly. Why would you envy me? You know what matters. Family, love, real connection. I'm still learning. I dried a plate. You're learning fast. She turned to me. Can I ask you something? Do you think, could someone like me fit into a life like this? Before I could answer, Lily appeared, rubbing her eyes. Is Miss Amelia staying for movie night tomorrow? Amelia looked at me, hope in her eyes. I nodded. If she wants to. I really want to. The next evening, we squeezed onto our old couch. Some animated movie playing, Lily between us. Halfway through, Lily fell asleep, head on Amelia's shoulder. Amelia didn't move, just smiled down at her. This feels right, being here, with you both. Yeah, I whispered. It does. But outside our little bubble, the world was watching, judging. News broke online. CEO Amelia Grant spotted with security guard. Inappropriate relationship questions arise. The board called an emergency meeting. I wasn't invited, but I knew what it meant. Amelia came to me afterward, panicked. They're going to fire you because of me, because we've been seen together. Let them. Jack, no, your job, Lily's expenses. You need this. Some things matter more than a paycheck. She grabbed my arms. Why would you risk everything? I met her eyes. Because you matter, not as my boss, not as a CEO, as Amelia, as a person who deserves to be protected, respected, loved. Tears streamed down her face. I don't deserve you. That's not your choice to make. I pulled her close, let her cry, knowing everything was about to change. The board scheduled a closed-door meeting, emergency session. Everyone knew what it meant, Amelia's removal. I was ordered to stay outside, standard security position, but I could hear raised voices, threats, intimidation tactics. Then I heard her, Amelia, voice strained, scared. Please, you're hurting me. That was enough. I burst through the doors, heavy oak. Didn't matter. Training kicked in. The scene was clear. 5 men surrounding her. One had her arm twisted. Physical intimidation. Assault. Hands off the lady! They turned, surprised. Angry. This is a private meeting, one snarled. Get out! I didn't move. Let her go. Now! The guy holding Amelia tightened his grip. She winced. Wrong move. I crossed the room in 3 strides. SEAL training, fast, efficient, grabbed his wrist. Applied pressure to the nerve cluster. He released her immediately, gasping in pain. The others moved toward me. Big mistake. First guy swung. I blocked, redirected his momentum, used it against him. He crashed into the wall. Second guy was smarter, tried to grapple. I dropped my center of gravity, hip throw. He went down hard. The remaining 3 backed off, saw what I was, what I could do. Anyone else? My voice was calm, cold, dangerous. They retreated, muttering, leaving. Amelia stood there, shaking, staring at me. Jack! Before I could respond, the door opened again. An older man entered, expensive suit, confident stride. Amelia's face went pale. Uncle Richard. Her uncle, former interim CEO, the one who'd been running things before her appointment. He threw a folder on the table, legal documents spilling out. Sign these, Amelia. Walk away from the company. Keep your dignity. Some money. Start over. Amelia's hands trembled. She looked at the papers, then at me, lost, broken. I stepped closer, spoke quietly. You can lose the company, buildings, titles, money, but don't lose yourself. Don't let them take who you are. Richard laughed. Who are you to give advice? A security guard? You've poisoned her mind against her own family. Family doesn't hurt family, I said. What I saw in here, that wasn't family. That was a hostile takeover. Amelia's tears fell on the contract, smudging the ink. I won't sign, she whispered, then stronger. I won't sign. Richard's face darkened. You'll have nothing. No company, no money, no reputation. You'll be ruined. But I'll be free. Her voice, strong now, certain. I'd rather have nothing and be myself than have everything and be your puppet. Richard grabbed the papers. You're making a terrible mistake. No, Amelia said, standing taller. I'm fixing one. I should have done this months ago. He stormed out, slamming the door, the sound echoing. Amelia collapsed into a chair, sobbing, the weight of her decision crushing down. I knelt beside her. Hey, look at me. She did, eyes red, devastated. I have nothing now, nothing. I thought of Sarah, her last words before she died, holding my hand. Don't let Lily see you give up. Show her strength, real strength, the kind that survives anything. My wife said something before she passed. She told me, don't let our daughter see you give up. Show her that real strength isn't avoiding the fall. It's getting back up. Amelia gripped my hand. How do I get back up from this? I reached into my pocket, pulled out something small, a fabric bracelet, simple, colorful, frayed at the edges, symbolic object number 2. Lily had made it for me years ago, worn it through deployments, through Sarah's death, through every hard day since. Lily made this for me when she was 7. She said it was a bravery bracelet. For when I was scared, I placed it in Amelia's palm. You need this more than I do right now. She stared at it, tears dropping onto the fabric. I can't take this. It's too precious. That's exactly why you should have it, to remember what really matters, not companies, not money, people, connection, love. That's what we protect. That's what we fight for. She clutched it to her chest. Thank you for standing with me, for believing in me when no one else did. The climax. Amelia chose freedom over power, integrity over wealth, all because someone who'd lost everything showed her what truly mattered. Richard returned one final time, angrier now, desperate. The board voted. You're out, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Amelia stood, wiped her tears, straightened her shoulders. Good. I don't want to be in a place that values control over humanity. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret, Amelia said, her voice steady and strong, is not doing this sooner, not seeing what you all really were. He sneered, turned to me. And you're fired, blacklisted. No security company will hire you. I shrugged. Worth it. He left. Final door slam. Dramatic exit. We stood in the empty boardroom, city lights twinkling through the windows. Amelia looked at me, exhausted but somehow lighter. What do we do now? Now? I smiled. We rebuild. Different, better, real. We? If you want. She smiled through her tears. I really want that. Outside, the world continued spinning. But in that moment, in that empty boardroom, 2 people chose each other over everything else. The next morning felt surreal. Amelia had nowhere to go. No office, no company car, no assistant. I found her sitting on a bench outside the building, just sitting, staring at nothing. Come on, I said. Lily's expecting you for breakfast. She looked up. Really? Really? She's making her famous burnt toast special. That made her smile. At our apartment, Lily had indeed made breakfast. Toast, eggs, only slightly burned. Miss Amelia, Lily hugged her. Dad said you're starting a new adventure. Amelia's eyes filled with tears. Something like that, sweetheart. We ate together, simple breakfast, simple moment, everything. Over the next weeks, Amelia started rebuilding, not the company, herself. She rented a small office space. Nothing fancy. Started a consulting firm, helping small businesses, using her knowledge for good instead of profit. I helped her set up security systems, taught her self-defense basics. We spent long hours together, working, talking, healing. Lily became our unofficial mascot, doing homework in Amelia's office after school, drawing pictures, playing guitar during breaks. One afternoon, Amelia asked, "Can I cook dinner tonight? At your place?" "You sure? Your track record with cooking." She laughed. "I've been practicing, please." That evening, she made spaghetti. Actually, good spaghetti. Lily was impressed. "Miss Amelia, you didn't burn it." "Progress," Amelia grinned. "Slow progress." After dinner, Lily went to practice guitar. Amelia and I cleaned up. "I like this," she said softly. "This life, simple, real, no pretense. It suits you." She turned to me. "Jack, I need to tell you something. I'm falling in love with this. With Lily, with you, with the life we're building." My heart stopped, started again, faster. "Amelia, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." I dried my hands, turned to face her fully. "I feel it too, but I'm scared. Lily got attached to you. If this doesn't work, it will work, because we'll make it work every single day." One Saturday, we decided to do something different. Buy plants, bring life to her small balcony. Lily chose sunflowers. "They're happy flowers, Dad." We planted them together, dirt under our nails, sun on our faces, Lily singing off key. "First time I feel like I have a real home," Amelia said, patting down soil. Lily looked up. You do have a home with us, right, Dad? I met Amelia's eyes. Right, if she wants it. I want it more than anything. But challenges kept coming. A tabloid published a hit piece. Fallen CEO exploited by security guard, the real story. It painted Amelia as desperate, me as opportunistic, Lily as a pawn. I read it, felt sick. I should quit, step away. This isn't fair to you. Amelia grabbed my face, made me look at her. Don't you dare. You're the reason I'm still standing. The reason I remember how to be human. But Lily is loved, protected, happy. That's what matters, not what strangers say. Symbolic object number 1 reappeared. My security badge. Lily had taken it, hung it at her study desk, like a medal, a symbol of protection, of heroism. We established new routines, morning coffee together, all 3 of us. Amelia learned to make it strong, the way I liked it. Evening walks after dinner, through Brooklyn streets, Lily between us, holding both our hands. Weekends planting more flowers, watching sunflowers grow, taller each week. Amelia's business grew slowly, steadily, built on reputation, integrity, not manipulation. I never knew work could feel good, she said one evening. Papers spread on our coffee table. Before it was just winning, defeating, conquering. This is building, creating, helping. That's because you're doing it right this time. She smiled, leaned against me. We're doing it right. Lily played guitar in the corner, getting better, actually playing recognizable songs now. Our apartment felt full, complete, not with things, with presence, love, family. More reporters came, camped outside our building, shouting questions, invasive, cruel. Miss Grant, are you using this man for sympathy? Jack, are you after her money? Amelia stepped forward. I tried to stop her. She was determined. Listen carefully, she said, voice clear and strong. This man saved my life, not from physical danger, from losing myself completely. He showed me what integrity looks like, what real strength is. So say whatever you want, write whatever stories sell. I know the truth. We know the truth. That's enough. She walked back inside, head high, dignified. I smiled. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Let them talk. We'll keep living, really living. Weeks turned to months. Spring arrived. Our sunflowers bloomed, bright yellow, reaching toward the sky. The 3 of us stood on the small balcony, morning light golden, coffee steaming. Look at them, Lily said, touching a petal gently. They made it. We all made it, I corrected, arm around both of them. Amelia leaned her head on my shoulder. What happens now? Now? We keep going, keep choosing each other, keep building this life. Our rescue dog barked inside. We'd adopted him last month. Lily named him Courage. We laughed, turned to go inside, to start another day, together. The apartment glowed with morning light, coffee brewing, sunflowers swaying in the breeze, Lily's guitar music floating through. 3 people who found each other through chaos, who chose each other despite everything, who built something real from nothing. The security badge sat on Lily's desk, no longer just plastic, a symbol of protection, love, family, because some things matter more than money, more than status, more than what the world thinks. Home, family, love, the things worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth choosing every single day. One morning I woke to find something on the kitchen table. A drawing, Lily's artwork, 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun, labels underneath in her messy handwriting, Dad, me, Amelia. At the bottom, my family. My throat tightened, heart swelling, footsteps behind me. Amelia appeared, saw the drawing. Her hand flew to her mouth. Did she? Lily emerged from her room, nervous, hopeful. Do you like it? I knelt down, pulled her into a hug. It's perfect, sweetheart. She looked at Amelia. Is it okay that I drew you as family? Amelia knelt too, tears streaming. It's more than okay. It's everything I've ever wanted. Lily grinned. Good, because Miss Amelia, I want you to stay. Forever, like real family. Amelia trembled, looked at me, question in her eyes. I nodded. We want you to stay. If you both still need me, Amelia's voice cracked. I want to stay, more than anything. I smiled, extended my hand. Welcome home, Amelia. She took it, then pulled us both into a hug. The three of us, right there in our small kitchen, crying, laughing, complete. The final scene unfolded like a dream. Bright morning in our Brooklyn apartment, kitchen windows open, spring breeze flowing through, coffee steaming on the counter, the good kind now. Amelia had insisted on buying decent beans, sunflowers on the balcony, tall, bright, reaching high, just like us. Lilies drawing on the fridge, held by a magnet, our family portrait. We sat together at the small table, eating pancakes, actually good ones. Amelia had finally mastered them. You know what I realized? Amelia said, syrup on her lips. What? Lily asked. Family isn't something you're born into. It's something you choose every single day. Lily nodded wisely, like how we chose you and how I chose you both. I looked at them. My daughter, this woman who came into our lives unexpectedly, who stayed when things got hard. We all chose right. Later that day, Amelia showed me something, legal papers, but different this time. I started a foundation for girls like Lily, who need mentorship, support, real role models. That's amazing. I want to give back what you gave me. What did I give you? She touched my face. A reason to be real, to be human, to remember what matters. I pulled her close. You gave us that too. Showed Lily that strength comes in many forms, that falling down doesn't mean staying down. Outside, the city rushed on, millions of people chasing success, status, money. But in our small apartment, 3 people had found something richer: truth, purpose, home. Lily played her guitar, actually good now. Months of practice paying off. Amelia sang along, still off key, but happy, uninhibited, free. I watched them, my family, not by blood, by choice, by love, by daily decision to show up, to stay, to fight for each other. Courage, our dog, barked, wanting attention. Lily scooped him up, laughing. The security badge sat on her desk. Lily had framed it, written underneath, "My hero dad." The fabric bracelet was on Amelia's wrist. Worn, treasured, a reminder of the day she chose freedom, the drawing on the fridge, our family, chosen, real, ours. I finally understood what Sarah meant before she died. When she squeezed my hand, looked into my eyes, said, "Find people worth protecting, worth fighting for, then never let go. Promise me." I found them, my girls, my family, my reason, and I would never let go. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Because family isn't about blood. It's about who you choose, who chooses you back. And we chose each other every single day in a small Brooklyn apartment with sunflowers on the balcony, coffee in the morning, laughter in the evening, nothing fancy, nothing perfect, everything real, everything that matters. Family isn't about blood. It's about who you choose and choose again every single day. If you found yourself somewhere in this story, subscribe to HA Stories and share what family means to you. If you found yourself in this story, subscribe HA Stories.